Point Blank on Eyewitness News. My name is Selom Adonu. My guest tonight is Member of Parliament for the Assafuah constituency. Is Vincent Assafuah, one of the youngest MPs in Ghana's legislature. In fact, there's been some younger ones as well who are first timers. He is in his second term. He joins us on Eyewitness News tonight to talk some general matters. Talk NPP, we talk parliamentary work, constituency organization, amongst others. Honorable, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, Salom.
Yes, how have you been? I mean, you won your election quite well. I mean, you come from a very safe constituency. The Assafuah historically has been a very safe constituency. How was the election generally for you?
Well, let me say a very good evening to you and to your cherished viewers. I think that I am now believing that there is nothing like
a safe seat.
Especially because of how the 2024 elections panned out. Clearly, anybody, even from the Ashanti region, being a candidate, contesting on the ticket of any political party, if you had not done your work well, would it have won an election? That is some belief I'm having now. And so I do not believe that there's any safe seat now. If you do your work, the Ghanaian people will vote for you.
Is that by extension suggesting that the NPP didn't do its work in the time they had? That's why Ghanaians voted them out?
We had a lot of challenges, clearly, both internal and governance-wise.
That made you not to do your work well?
So, I mean, the Ghanaian people passed a verdict, and clearly there should be a reason for that. And I believe that from what I said, we had issues with governance. And so...
Issues with governance exactly mean what?
You see, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is one of the best presidents we've ever had since independence. But of course, there are actions and inactions of people, especially his appointees, that may not go down well with the people of Ghana, or that might have not gone down well with the people of Ghana. There may also be one or two actions of the president himself that may be out of misunderstanding, because I am one of the people who believes that the New Patriotic Party and this government failed to be able to communicate the challenges of the Ghanaian people. I'll give you an example. During the electioneering campaign, the current president, John Dramani Mahama, said that within the first 120 days, he is going to cancel e-levy and cancel COVID-19 levy, cancel betting levy and what have you. Even before he took the reins of government, even before, he is now trying to rationalize, if you like, psych the minds of the Ghanaian people, that it may not be easy for us to, as it were, cancel that tax. What does that mean? That means that it is a necessary tax. However, the New Patriotic Party failed to carry the people of Ghana along, for them to understand our challenge as a people.
But your candidate, I mean, Dr. Bawumia also said he was going to cancel it. So they both said it. So I don't see the point really, because if
Bawumia said e-levy.
Yeah, said e-levy. He even talked about betting levy.
I don't think so.
No, he said betting levy. He talked about betting levy.
Well, that's okay.
He did, yes.
Clearly, you could see that there were some taxes, COVID-19, emission taxes, that John Dramani Mahama said at the time that he's going to cancel it within the first 120
But
days.
e-levy is the biggest one. I mean, e-levy is the emission tax. The e-levy in terms of volume. In terms of volume.
Go and take your duty.
In terms of volume.
If you want to take your duty sheet, you see that COVID-19 features, almost everything COVID-19 features very well. I am trying to make the point that if you are a certain government and you are able to communicate your challenges and carry the people along, you will not be able to suffer the defeat that you suffer. It does not mean that you did not perform.
Actions speak louder than words. How do you communicate the challenges? Your actions must communicate the challenges. When you said we should tighten our belts, and you losing yours, that is some communication.
Do you think we're losing ours?
No, when you tell us that the system is...
when you tell us that the system was... sure that all his ministers and deputy ministers had a salary slash.
No, when everybody's done that before. John Mahama did that before. Well, when you tell us that the system is tough and you keep flying private jets, when even Ghanaians were talking about it, and your ministers come to tell us that you need a system or a jet you can bath or freshen up in and all of that.
That is agreed. That's what I'm saying.
That itself communicates a lot. So it was a government or a leader who didn't listen.
I agree with
you.
So
how do you communicate it when your actions say otherwise?
I agree with you, but I'm saying that there were some challenges.
The challenges were self-inflicted.
Not all of them.
It was self-inflicted. So, for example, e-levy. We said that e-levy, I think it came, is it 1.5 now? It came a bit higher. And we said, no, reduce it. Nobody bothered. Nobody bothered.
Reduce it to 1.5%.
Yes, so it was 2.
So currently it is 1.5%.
Yes. People said, make it 0.5. Let it be incremental.
Right.
Let's start it this way. After every budget cycle, you can increase it. Ease us into it. You don't hit us with 2.2%.
Remember, you go to the IMF. The IMF will give you a policy guideline, a general policy guideline whereby you have to ensure that there is fiscal consolidation and revenue mobilization.
But you see, you will boast of having the men, and you boast of saying that Ken Ofori-Atta, who was finance minister, had networks and knew about the workings of the IMF, etc. There could have been a way of dealing with it. Now, for example, we hear the John Mahama administration may go and renegotiate the IMF terms. The IMF knows that you have a country to run. They will come with their conditionalities. But if you are resolute in what you are telling them, they will go around it and they will let it happen. Especially, again, if you carry them along. So you don't hit us with, a 2.0 or 2%. And later, after the outcry, you can't make it 1.5. That itself would have poisoned the minds of the people already.
But you see, the fact that you have introduced a tax of 1.5% for e-levy doesn't mean it is bad necessarily. I'm saying that.
No, but the timing.
Yes, but you see, the circumstances that we found ourselves, we needed that tax very well. You see, the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Matopeko Prempeh, went on Peace FM. And Kwame Sefakai asked him a very simple question. I remember the response that he gave to him as far as the DDEP is concerned. He first and foremost apologized to the people.
But apology, you would have
you hold on. Oh, of course, it's genuine. He apologized to the people that first and foremost, this shouldn't have happened. But for him, he also sees those people as one of the people in the history of this country who have been able to sacrifice so much for the Ghanaian people. It does not mean that it is a good way of going about it, or it does not mean that that is the best way to go around it. But in the circumstances, we had to make sure that some sacrifices are made. We just came out of COVID. So I'm saying that it is not about whether the taxes that was levied was good or not, but the fact that we were not able to communicate it well and carry the Ghanaian people to let us, for them to let us understand, or for them to understand that this was a good way to be able to manage the country at the time. That is why I think we failed. Because John Dramani Mahama, one way or the other, has been able to confirm some of the things that we were saying at the time. Because obviously he's now telling us that he did not know that it was an IMF conditionality. Please, that was not an IMF conditionality.
You did not know it was an IMF for what? To do what?
That we should, as it were, bring about the e-levy. It was not.
When did he say that?
Oh, but I heard him say that he did not know that these things were tied to the IMF conditionalities and all that. As I said, the IMF...
What I heard was that he did not know the extent of the difficulties in the energy sector, because what he was told was not as deep as he's seen. That's what I heard him say. No,
this one, he said this about 3 or 4 days ago.
Okay.
Maybe after that, I'll share the video with you. He said that the e-levy, the COVID-19 and the emission tax, as far as he is concerned, he did not know that it was tied to the IMF conditionality. And I am suggesting to you and the NDC and John Dramani Mahama that it was never tied to it. But what was tied to it was how to ensure that there's fiscal consolidation and effective revenue mobilization. That then at the governance level, the New Patriotic Party and its government decided that we should be able to introduce e-levy. We should be able to introduce the COVID-19, or if you like, ensure the sustenance of the COVID-19, ensure the sustenance of the emission tax and the betting tax. So it's something that he can do away if he really wants to do away with it. Because it is not, let me say, a conditionality of the...
but he's promised to do so in 120 days. So let's see.
He has already told us that he can't do...
Today is day 2.
He said he can't do it.
No, but we will hold him to it.
It can even be a day.
Yeah, we will hold him to it. After 120 days, we will hold him to it. So leave that to us. We'll hold him to it. You know, the other issue too is people thought your government didn't listen. You MPs, I don't know if you were part, but in the end it became a majority decision. You said no, let Ken go because some of Ken's policies and the way he was carrying himself around, etc., was going to make us lose the election. That was 2 years ago. The president didn't listen. I mean, and rather, some of the people went around chasing people who championed that.
No,
you know,
I remember,
and all of that people think worked against you.
Well, I think that sometimes if you are governing, you have to listen to the voices of the people.
But the
voices of the people. In fact, the voices that actually put you there. At the time, it was clear that the Ghanaian people were yearning for
a change.
As far as the finance minister is concerned. In fact, I was one of the people. In fact, we had to go and meet the president. We met the president.
And they told you after the IMF negotiation.
We met the president that yes, he's going to do that after the IMF negotiation. Maybe, and maybe I may have to get the explanation from the president. But the promise that he gave to us as members of parliament when we met him, that this is what the Ghanaian people are telling us. This is what our constituents are also telling us. It will be proper that you allow the finance minister to excuse himself for some time, because if that is what everybody is saying, please let's do it for them. But unfortunately, we did not get it that way. It is possible, and maybe rightly so. One of the reasons why we lost these elections because people felt that this government or the kind of governance we are having is not one that is a listening government. We accept it. Maybe going forward, we should be able to see how best we can deal with it, especially if we are able to have the chance from the Ghanaian people to lead this country again. But as I said, we've learned from these lessons. We've learned from these lessons so much that you just cannot lead and govern without feedback.
But your people failed to take feedback seriously.
But I'm saying that those feedback, when you take it, doesn't mean you are going to change your position. You need to be able to carry them along for them to know where you want to tailor or direct the country towards. If you are not able to do so, then it will mean that indeed you did not take feedback. But you can still take feedback and maintain the stance, and let the Ghanaian people also maintain their stance, so that you can carry all of them along.
But you guys were so confident. What was the confidence was it real? You guys were so confident. Were you not picking signals from the ground? Some of you guys so confident you were going to win this election. And in fact, Bawumia himself said he knew he was going to win. He didn't have a problem with winning. What he was concerned about was the margin. And I was surprised because, hearing from the ground, from text messages, from tweets, etc., you know that no, the ground wasn't fertile for the NPP. But you guys in government appeared not to. You didn't know. Is it that there's something in government that stops you from seeing the reality?
When you are in government, the preoccupation is to see how best you can develop your country. Now, when you go for your cabinet meetings and there's a sector by sector, if you like, briefing, then you see sector by sector the things that you've done. It is going to be very difficult for you to convince yourself why the social contract that you signed with the Ghanaian people was for the purposes of me voting for you to be my leader and me also delivering on developmental projects for you. Now, if per my own assessment, and I check the manifesto upon which I came into office with, and I've been able to perform about 70% of those manifesto promises, and maybe if you have time, we can take our time and go through the manifesto.
We've actually run out of time.
At the right time, we can do that.
Yes.
And take the NPP manifesto one by one, and you will see that we were able to perform about 70% of our manifesto promises. So, on that basis, you are tempted to believe that on all faults, you stand the right chance of winning an election. However, the Ghanaian voter is becoming sophisticated. And as a researcher, I am so much interested in making sure that we understand how a typical Ghanaian voter thinks.
But you're a party of science and data.
Yes, but I'm saying that if they are becoming sophisticated, you need to understand what everybody is thinking. So, if a Ghanaian voter thinks that, okay, I want you to take out the finance minister, you don't take out the finance minister. Meanwhile, that person has enjoyed from free SHS. Meanwhile, in front of that person's house, there has been a construction of road. So you see how sophisticated the thing is. So if you do this assessment and you now realize that this is what the Ghanaian voter wants, you may have to probably do so.
Talking about free SHS, and we've run out of time. I mean, I just spoke to the CHAS national secretary, and he says things are not looking good. I mean, they don't have food, they don't have anything. I mean, they are now advising parents to bring more provisions to their children in school so they can eat and all of that. The free SHS may appear like a good program on paper, but poorly implemented. Do you agree?
Well, it may have its challenges. In fact, it has its challenges.
Which you fail to address.
I am a member of the
you were in the education ministry.
I am a member of the education committee. There have been a number of times that we've raised these issues over and over and over again at the committee level.
For who to deal with?
For the Minister of Education to deal with.
And he never dealt with them?
Well, sometimes we get the promises. Sometimes later on when we call him to the committee, he is able to tell us that some payments have been made and all that. But that, as I said, as a nation, the free senior high school education, policy-wise, is one of the best policies that we've ever had in this country. However, we should be able to look at its implementation very well.
So then he said they will look at it. What will you suggest?
First year, second year was fantastically implemented.
No, first year, second year, that was when the people were sleeping in dining halls and on verandas, etc., because of infrastructure challenges.
No.
That was the time people were sleeping on verandas and in dining halls.
No, that was not the first year.
That was the first year.
No, that was not the first year.
The first of implementation.
No, that was actually the second, if you like, the third year. That was when we introduced the double track. We did a certain needs assessment at the Ministry of Education. That made us understand that there were some schools that needed dormitory blocks. There were some schools that needed, if you like, classrooms. Because you see, you go to a typical senior high school, you have a dormitory block.
Those needs assessments should have been done before the program started.
You have a dormitory block of dormitory block that is taking about 2,000 people, but you have a classroom blocks in the school that is taking 1,000. That means that when you go to a dormitory block, you have people sleeping, but in the classroom, you will not be able to have the 2,000 people being accommodated. So based on the needs assessment, we quickly had to make sure that we implement the double track. Then going forward, we will have some amount of expansion, which we did that in about 2 or 3
years. So NDC says they'll look at the program again, they'll upgrade it, they'll make it nicer. They used to say review, but you guys said review meant cancel, so they changed the word. If you were to look at it again, what changes would you advise the NDC to make to the free SHS?
Well, I think that there should be sustainable resources to it. That is how come, as a member of the Education Committee, we made sure that the free SHS bill was
But you're running it for 7 years without a bill.
Yes, but you see, it's okay. It's better late than never. But as I said, per the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, we were mandated one way or the other to have that bill. That bill has been concluded. We were looking forward to be able to pass it in the 8th Parliament. Unfortunately for us, the NDC resisted that bill vehemently.
Actually, they resisted.
They did, because you remember
the actions of the day.
No, it has been part of the other paper for about 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, but you had 7 years.
It was being repeated.
You had 7 years to do that, and you don't do that at last minute. Anything could happen.
You have to work on it. You have it will have to go through stages, stakeholder consultations, and all that. The Education Committee will also have to take its time and work on it.
But you don't need 7. You don't need 7 years. You didn't need 7 years to do that.
We did not use 7 years to do that.
But the program started in 2017.
Working, as far as I'm concerned, we started working on the education bill somewhere last year. So that means that we used about a year.
Yeah, but of course, I get the point when you started working. But the point I'm making is that knowing that this was important, you should have dealt with it way before.
That is okay. I always say that it's better late than never. But the NDC also had a role to make sure that we passed this free SHS bill. They failed for us to do.
But NDC is not in power. NDC wasn't in power.
They have a role to play in Parliament.
Government business.
Of course, they had. Yes. So for the first time,
they didn't have government.
So for the first time, you had the Speaker of Parliament dictating government business. For the first time, you had the minority.
So how did he dictate government?
Yes, because
how did you do it?
About 2 days before we rose, the Speaker of Parliament was able to tell us that, okay, this item on the other paper we will not take it, but this item we will take it. But that is the sole prerogative of the leader of government business.
But you have to pass the bill in 2 days or in 1 day?
It is possible. We have urgent bills.
No, but it was a free SHS an agent bill? It wasn't an agent bill.
You think it's not an
No, I mean, you had time. That's the point.
Yes.
So you don't pass it under a certificate of urgency. You had time to do it, but you didn't do it, and you want to force it through the last minute. And Charles and Nagrat and all of those guys had said that the bill lacked proper stakeholder consultation. But I think we'll talk more. I mean, we've run out of time. We've run out of time. That's Vincent called Assafuah, a member of Parliament for Assafuah. He's returned to the House, and he's hoping he will hopefully be on the Education Committee, perhaps, and some other committees of Parliament. He's been my guest tonight on Point Blank.